Ever notice how whenever anyone talks about the open source world, it's all like collaboration this and shared values that?
Yeah.
Well, today's deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at a story where those ideals, they kind of went head to head with how business really gets done.
Oh, juicy.
We're diving deep, and I mean deep, into this fight brewing between WPEngine. They're a big deal in WordPress hosting.
Right, right.
And Automattic. It's just,
Automattic. They're the ones behind WordPress.com itself.
the big kahuna.
Exactly. Headed up by Matt Mullenweg. You know who he is in WordPress.
A big name for sure.
And what makes this whole thing so crazy is that it's gone way past just, like, words being thrown around. We got our hands on something juicy.
Ooh, what is it?
A cease and desist letter.
Huh?
WPEngine sent it straight to Automattic. Now, that's serious stuff. That's not just like a strongly worded email.
Oh, no. This is legal eagle territory.
Yeah.
So WPEngine sending this, it means they think something legally wrong happened.
Yeah.
And they're ready to lawyer up about it.
I'd say so.
And they are not holding back in this letter. We're talking accusations of Mullenweg demanding a huge payout.
Like how?
Tens of millions of dollars.
Oh.
Yeah. And they get aim. He threatened to basically wreck WPEngine's reputation if they didn't cough it up.
That's intense. What proof do they have of this?
Well, they actually included text messages.
Yeah.
One supposedly sent right before Mullenweg's big keynote speech at WordCamp US, the WordPress event.
Right, WordCamp.
And he supposedly says he'll take a scorched earth nuclear approach if WPEngine doesn't play ball.
Scorched earth. So like total annihilation. In this scenario, that'd be WPEngine's reputation he's talking about burning down.
Exactly. And the timing of it, right before this big event, Mullenweg's got a global stage at that point.
Adds a whole other layer to it, yeah?
Right. Can you imagine being in the room when WPEngine got those messages?
Talk about pressure.
And the letter goes on to say that when WPEngine didn't pay up, that's when Mullenweg went public, used his keynote speech and some online posts afterward to slam WPEngine's whole way of doing business.
What was he accusing them of?
Accusing them of basically putting profits before the WordPress community. He even hinted that employees might face retaliation.
Ooh, that's getting personal.
Yeah, and to WPEngine's credit, they addressed those accusations head on in the letter.
What did they say?
Their side is they are active in the WordPress world, they're using the trademark legally, and they care about their employees. For real.
So a classic he said, she said, but with legal documents.
Right. And reading through all this, it makes you think, what happens when a company like WPEngine, they've built their success using open source software like WordPress, but then they're clashing with the values behind that very software?
Right. It's like biting the hand that feeds you, in a way.
Can you really make it in that world without fully buying into the whole ethos?
It's a question a lot of companies are wrestling with, especially as open source stuff becomes more and more how business gets done.
Absolutely.
Finding that middle ground, using open source to make money, but also actually giving back to the community. It's a tough balancing act. And this whole fight, it shows just how hard it is to get right.
And for the people at WPEngine, the employees, the customers, they're stuck in the middle.
Yeah. Who do you side with?
Right. The company you work for, do business with. Or do you go with Mullenweg's stand about open source ethics?
Tough spot to be in.
Okay, so that's WPEngine's side of things, with a whole lot of legal muscle behind it.
Laid out pretty clearly.
But to really untangle this mess, we got to switch gears. Time to see what Matt Mullenweg has to say for himself.
All right, let's hear it.
And with him, we're out of the courtroom and into the world of blog posts and public statements.
A little less formal, huh?
A little less formal.
And it's in those blog posts, that's where things get really interesting.
Right, like he doesn't come right out and address the money stuff, the demands WPEngine's claiming.
No, not directly.
But he is absolutely not backing down what he said about how they do business.
Not one bit.
And this one thing he keeps coming back to, it's WPEngine's choice to turn off those database revisions by default on their hosting.
Yeah, that got people talking.
Okay, for anyone listening who's not a total WordPress nerd, can you explain why that's a big deal?
Sure. So picture this. You're writing something, right? Every time you hit save, the software, it keeps a copy of that version.
Like a backup.
Exactly, like a safety net. So if you delete something by mistake or you want to go back to an older draft, boom, you can.
Okay, that makes sense.
And with WordPress, those revisions are stored in the database. It's all about keeping your content safe, being able to recover it.
So WPEngine turning that off.
Mullenweg's argument is they're putting convenience, or maybe saving a few bucks, ahead of what's best for the people using their service.
and potentially putting their data at risk.
Exactly.
And he doesn't just say it nicely either. He calls WPEngine a cancer to WordPress, which is,
Yeah, that's Mullenweg for you. He's
huh.
not afraid to call people out, especially when he thinks those core WordPress values are being messed with.
And this is where he brings up that ecosystem thinking idea again.
Exactly. He lays out this whole framework for how businesses can be a part of the open source world, but do it ethically, sustainably.
Which he's implying WPEngine isn't doing.
Pretty much. He's saying it's not enough to just throw money at the project. You have to actually believe in it, structure your business around those open source values, give back in a way that lifts up the whole community.
Yeah, just your bottom line.
Yeah.
Which brings up a question I'm really curious about, and I bet our listeners are too. How do you even measure what a fair contribution to an open source project looks like? $1 million question right there. And there's no easy answer, no one size fits all.
Right, because is it more about the code you write or the money you donate so someone else can write code full time? What about people who maybe aren't techie, but they spend hours answering questions, helping others out in the community?
It's complicated. It gets to the heart of what it means to be a responsible member of this open source world. And I think this whole fight, as uncomfortable as it might be for everyone involved, it's making us actually talk about these things.
It's like someone's holding up a mirror to the open source community and saying, are we really living up to our own hype? Are we actually building something that'll last? And that's a question we can't afford to ignore, not with open source software becoming so central to how everything online works.
And Mullenweg, he's not just calling for change within WordPress. He's trying to get the attention of the whole tech world.
He's saying this isn't just a WordPress problem, it's bigger than that.
Right. He's saying this is about the future of open source itself.
And he's putting the ball in our court, too, you know? It's not just on the companies, it's on us, the users, the customers.
He's saying we have a role to play in this too.
If we think a company's benefiting without giving back, what are we going to do about it?
He's basically saying if you really believe in this open source thing, put your money where your mouth is.
Right, and that can look like a lot of different things. Maybe it's supporting companies that actually walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Maybe it's getting involved directly, contributing to the project itself, or even just like taking the time to learn how this stuff works, why it matters.
Because it's easy to just click through those terms of service, not even think twice.
Oh, absolutely. We all do it.
But what this whole fight shows us, it's not just theoretical. These choices we make, they have real consequences.
For the companies, yeah, but also for open source as a whole.
Yeah.
Whether it survives, whether it thrives, that's on us too.
Every click, every purchase, like you're casting a vote.
Exactly. We have way more power than we realize.
So where does that leave us? WPEngine saying they're getting a bad rap. They do contribute, just in their own way.
And on the other side, you've got Mullenweg, this huge voice in the WordPress world, calling them out, saying it's not good enough.
Right. Wants everyone to be more upfront, more accountable.
Classic clash of opinions. And honestly, I don't think there are any clear good guys or bad guys here.
No, it's messy. It's complicated. And it forces us to look at some hard truths, right? Like how do open source ideals and making money actually work together?
They're supposed to go hand in hand, but we see how easily it can go wrong.
And that's what's so great about a deep dive like this.
Yeah.
We're not giving you the answers, telling you what to think.
We're just trying to understand it ourselves.
Exactly. We're giving you the background, the different sides, so you can make up your own mind.
Hopefully get those wheels turning a little.
So as we finally tear ourselves away from this whole WPEngine and Automattic saga, which has been fascinating, and let's be real, a little stressful.
A little bit, yeah.
I think the thing I'm left with is this. The open source world, it talks a big game about working together, sharing.
Right, being all kumbaya.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, it's still got just as much drama, power struggles, all that, as any other industry.
People love to forget, but open source, it's built by people.
With all their flaws and everything.
Exactly, which is why it's a good story. There are lessons to be learned, questions we should be asking.
And a whole lot we still don't know.
And that's what I hope people listening take away from this. Don't just take the headlines at face value, you know? Dig deeper, be curious, because these fights, they matter.
They have consequences that go way beyond just the tech world.
Open source is becoming how more and more of the internet runs. So, yeah, we all have a stake in this.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder all that. This has been The Deep Dive, taking you beyond the headlines, deeper than the surface.
Getting to the good stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. We'll see you next time.